that. Thank you.
All right, good morning, everybody. We're here today to discuss Operation Clean Sweep, really the brainchild of U.S. Attorney John Sarcone. I'll talk about that. I'll talk about John in a second. There's obviously a slew of law enforcement officers here, which is a good thing because that's what really this press conference is all about. In addition to myself and John, we have Special Agent in Charge Bryan DiGirolamo of the ATF, FBI Special Agent Greg Tremaroli, of course, the Syracuse Police Chief Mark Rusin, and the Chief Law Enforcement Officer, police-wise, in Onondaga County, our Sheriff Toby Shelley, Deputy Chief David Metz, New York State Police is here represented as well. DEA Supervisory Special Agent Mike Murphy. Murph, thanks for being here. And certainly U.S. Attorney John Sarcone, who I'll introduce in just a second. You have seen the numbers at a recent press conference that we had here regarding violent crime rates in the city of Syracuse. They are unprecedented. They really are. And one of the reasons for that, there's a lot of reasons, a constellation of reasons for that. The excellence of the Syracuse Police Department is probably first and foremost. But the collaboration of the people in this room, in my judgment, is certainly very high on that list for the explanation. Not only do we have an unbelievable solve rate of homicides of over 80%, which is 30 to 40% higher than the national average, but we also have seen precipitous drops in shootings, armed robberies, violent assaults, gang activity, as well as homicide. The U.S. Attorney came to me a number of months ago, and we sat, I can't remember, John, if it was your office or my office, and we were collaborating about how frustrating it is that we know who the offenders are, the major players, the major gangbangers. We track them in the Crime Analysis Center. And there's an old adage that 7% of the criminals commit 70% of the crime. That might not be 100% statistically accurate, but it's pretty darn close. So John talked about offering his office and his federal agencies to assist us. Needless to say, I've heard that before. In 34 years as DA, I've never had a U.S. attorney reach out with a commitment, however, that John Sarcone has. We have 12 arrests that the U.S. attorney will discuss in just a second. They involve arrests for crack cocaine, for fentanyl, for methamphetamine. Last time I checked, we're losing close to 100,000 citizens a year in the United States of America. How that isn't a front page story every single day, I don't know. And more importantly, as a result of Operation Clean Sweep, 37 firearms were taken off the streets of the city of Syracuse. That's an incredible number, and we're doing more proactive things every day regarding firearms. Every firearm is removed from the city as a potential saving of a life. My office and the U.S. Attorney, we now review on every case of cross jurisdiction, and those involve primarily drugs, guns, and child pornography and human trafficking. My assistant DAs work collaboratively with John's office. Nico is here, who could not have been more helpful to me in my office in our prosecution of the 110 gang last year regarding Parkside Commons. John has cross-designated. I think we're up to 4, maybe 5 in the near future.
4, another one.
Another one on the way, assistant DAs. And let me tell you how that makes a difference. When, you know, you know all of you the plea bargaining process. And when we say, Judge, that offer is not acceptable, a lot of times the person just pleads to the entire indictment, and there's not much we can do about it. Now, assistant DAs are saying, Judge, I'm cross-designated. I'm an assistant United States attorney. If this sentence doesn't meet your particular standards, I'll walk a quarter of a mile over to the federal building and I'll see what the federal judges think about it. And that makes a tremendous difference in helping us dispose of our cases. So I want to turn it over to John. Before I do, I just want to mention that John has been 15 months on the job, and gotten to know him quite well. I know he's a publicity hound. He purposely got mugged in Albany just to get his name in the headlines. But one thing about John, he's absolutely a man of his word. He said that we were going to do certain things, and although I've known that for 13 months and 29 days, you all now know it, and I want the community to know that as well. Too often we see, for example, the very, very tragic case of the kidnapping in Arizona of Samantha Guthrie's mother, and we see publicity, we see the FBI offering help and the local authorities saying we're not interested, and the result is 6 months later we have nobody in custody. That's never going to happen in Syracuse, New York, or Onondaga County, and one of the main reasons for that is John Sarcone. So John, my pleasure to turn it over to you, and please inform us about Operation Clean Sweep.
Thank you. Thank you very much, District Attorney Fitzpatrick. Let me say, first I want to say thank you. Thank you for your friendship and your collaboration. I mean, it's not every day that the U.S. Attorney or the Department of Justice walks into a local DA's office and meets with the sheriff and meets with the chief of police and offers to take on any and all matters that impact the community. We had this experiment that's been going on for 5+ years of bail reform, which is a code for social justice. And that may work down in Brooklyn and in Queens and densely populated areas, but it doesn't work up here. And anybody who thinks it does, just look at the results of what happened. So since that legislation went into effect, the DA's office is hamstrung with getting cooperators, undercovers, confidential informants, because the DA is going to have to turn that over to the head of the Bloods gangs lawyers. And I don't know anybody in law enforcement. My father was a detective one time. He wouldn't risk his life and his family's life over that. So you have a lot of these gangbangers running around the streets. It's called the revolving door crime is what I've named it. So when I got here, March 17th of 2025, I made it a priority to go out and visit the communities that I serve, 32 of them. Now, Craig Tremaroli was with me from the beginning. He helped plan out a lot of this. Bryan DiGirolamo from ATF was with me from the beginning, Frank Tarantino from DEA, and our HSI partners. And we got together and went out and visited all 32 communities. And as a result of those visits, and it took from mid-April to mid-August, we were embraced very well. And as a result, according to the statistics of the Executive Office of U.S. Attorneys, this office has prosecuted, per prosecutor, 170% more cases than any other district in the Second Circuit, and 21% more than any district in the United States. And why was that? It was because we needed help. The communities needed help. And you don't have to have this kind of impact in states that have law and order still, like Florida, or pretty much every state in most states of the nation. So I want to recognize Nico Commodore, who had led this operation and successfully, along with all of our partners, and especially ATF. Now, when we went to these communities, I said, we're not just coming in and talking, we're going to do it. And all of the federal law enforcement agencies went in and met with the sheriffs and met with the police chiefs and met with the DAs to find cases that were cold cases that were abandoned because of this reckless bail law, and make them federal. In fact, when I see something on the news where a pedophile was arrested and released, what do, Craig? I call Craig and say, go get him. And that individual's locked up that night and brought in before a magistrate judge for a detention hearing, and I don't think not one of them has been released. So even if I see it in the news or I read about it and they're being released, I'm sending out ATF, or I'm sending the DEA's office many times for gangbangers, criminal records, career criminals. So those days as far as this administration is concerned, are over, and the collaboration with the district attorney here has been unprecedented. You know, Bill Fitzpatrick has been a beacon of law and order, not only in this county for 30-something years, 32 years, but in the state of New York and the nation. Think about that. That's how impactful Bill Fitzpatrick has been as a district attorney and a leader in his profession. So just want to announce once again, there were 13 arrests connected to narcotics distribution, firearms offenses, 11 kilograms of cocaine seized, 615 grams of crack cocaine seized, 365 grams of fentanyl seized. You know what 365 grams of fentanyl can do? Approximately 180,000 people could die from that. 180,000. How many people fill up the stadium for Syracuse? 3 times that. Okay, 3 times that could die from fentanyl. 3 pounds of methamphetamine seized and 37 illegal possessed firearms. That's incredible, and that's just one operation. And by the way, the operations are not these 2-year-long investigations. They're short, 2-3 months, and then bam, takedown. And we've done these throughout the district. We've done them in Broome County. We've done them in Clinton County. We've done it in Albany County in the capital region, and we have more that are in the works. And so we're going to continue to work hard to protect this community and all the communities that I serve in 32 counties. So I want to thank everybody. I want to thank Chief and the Sheriff as well for your cooperation, and turn it back over to.
Did you want to introduce any of the federal partners that have?
Absolutely. Well, I'd like to bring up first Craig Tremaroli from FBI, who's the special agent in charge of the Albany field office, which is the only federal law enforcement agency that has a headquarters in the district. So, Craig, let's.
Thank you to our U.S. Attorney and our District Attorney as well. Good morning. Thank you all for being here for this important announcement. My name is Craig Tremaroli, Special Agent in charge of the FBI Albany Field Office. I'm honored to stand here with these outstanding law enforcement partners to show the community the impact our partnerships are having every day throughout Onondaga County. For the past year or so, the FBI launched several nationwide operations aimed at crushing violent crime by removing dangerous criminals, weapons, and child predators from our communities. Locally speaking, these operations present the invaluable opportunity for a unified response to a shared problem. By coming together, we identify problematic criminals wreaking havoc in our communities, then quickly get to work to leverage our collective resources and hold them accountable. In the past few months, I've stood with partners from across upstate, central, and northern New York to announce similar results to today's. Because this approach works and the results speak for themselves. And today proves Onondaga County is no different. The seizures and success shared here today are the direct result of the incredible partnerships represented beside me. 12 criminals who are peddling drugs and guns in our communities are behind bars. A substantial amount of incredibly dangerous narcotics were also seized and will never make it onto our streets. 37 guns were taken and will never again fall into the hands of dangerous criminals. It's impossible to know the damage those weapons and drugs caused in our neighborhoods. But I hope the community feels safer tonight, knowing they will never make it into the hands of another criminal. Simply put, this operation saved lives. But I want to be clear. The partnerships you see here today operate whether there's an official operation or not. The work is happening all day, every day, throughout Onondaga County and beyond. In my experience, criminals think federal agencies like the FBI are tied up with long-term investigations. They think we can't possibly be tracking the criminal activity that plays out every day in our communities. They think we work separately from our state and local partners. Today's results prove them wrong. These partnerships prove them wrong. These partnerships close the gaps the criminals tried to exploit. And while we may wear different badges, this collective team up here today is laser focused on working together to find those criminals and hold them accountable. Because nothing is more important than keeping our community safe. Thank you. I'll turn it over to the ATF SAC.
Good morning. I want to thank the District Attorney for putting this together, and I want to thank the U.S. Attorney for spearheading this operation. My name is Bryan DiGirolamo. I'm the Special Agent in charge for ATF for the state of New York. Today's announcement is more than statistics. It's about partnerships and the violent crime reduction strategies. Operation Clean Sweep reflects months of coordination among state, local, and federal agencies working together on a shared mission, protecting the people in our communities. Criminal organizations don't limit themselves to one jurisdiction or one type of crime. Illegal firearms, narcotics trafficking, violent offenders, and repeat offenders are often interconnected. That's why our response must be equally connected. By sharing intelligence, coordinating investigations, and leveraging each agency's unique authorities and expertise, we've removed illegally possessed firearms from our communities, seized significant quantities of drugs, and held accountable individuals who pose a serious threat to our public safety. Every firearm that is recovered is one less violent crime committed with it, along with the one less murder that the DA said earlier. I want to thank the dedicated agents, detectives, investigators, deputies, analysts, prosecutors, and the support personnel from every participating agency. These results are possible because of your professionalism, your willingness to work together, and your commitment to serving this community. A special appreciation to our partners on the state side, Syracuse Police Department, the New York State Police Community Stabilization Unit, the Onondaga Sheriff's Office, the New York State Department of Corrections, Onondaga's District Attorney's Office, and on the federal side, our partners here at FBI, DEA, HSI, and of course, the U.S. Attorney's Office. ATF is proud to stand alongside each of our partners, and we remain committed to working and reducing violent crime and making our neighborhoods safe. Thank you.
Who else is speaking? Certainly the chief. I'll get to him. Any feds want to get up here? Anybody? Murph? Yeah, the man of few words. I like it. And Trooper, I don't want you all the way in the back there. Would you mind coming up here? Superintendent's going to get very mad at me if you don't make the media today. So let me turn it over now to. I just can't tell you how happy I am that he's our chief. A great working relationship with this guy for probably 7 or 8 years. And I'm sure we've got many more to look forward to. So, Mark, please come up.
Yeah, appreciate it to the U.S. Attorney and District Attorney Bill Fitzpatrick for putting this together. I think that most of the time that I'm in front of these cameras, many of these people are here. And I think that over and over again, just in the first 8 months of being the chief, I can call upon these folks, and every time there's a delivery on the other end. DA Fitzpatrick talked about it in his opening remarks. It's about speed and intensity with respect to the most violent people in the community, and that's really been the focus from my experience just in 8 months with the DA, and with the U.S. Attorney now in terms of the cross designation. It does give you an alternative that if we need to pull that lever, that we certainly can. 37 guns does represent a significant impact on the community. The drugs, as the U.S. Attorney spoke about, is significant. Gun violence is a data point that we look at. But as anybody in this room, it's not just numbers. There's a lot of emotion behind that. You meet with a mother of a victim of gun violence as a law enforcement officer or involved in the system. You know how difficult that is. It's a memory that you will always have in terms of the tears and the sorrow that person will carry for the rest of their lives. So there's an incredible emotional impact. And sometimes these operations allow us to not have that impact on the community, and I'm very thankful for the way this has worked. In the first 8 months as chief, I've had meetings with all the federal representatives that are in this room. It's right out of the gate. There was a phone call to me, very proactive. What can we do to help? That has always been the message consistently across our federal partnerships, and that's always been my experience with Sheriff Shelley, but also the New York State Police and DA Fitzpatrick. I do want to thank the the operators as well too, the investigators, the detectives. I know that was talked about on one of the cases. I was down there, and it was a SWAT hit. It was a high-risk search warrant, and these folks are waking up 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. They're prepping. It's very intense. They take this job very seriously. They're very professional in their planning, but it's the training that goes ahead of it. It's the back office work that nobody sees, so nothing bad happens during the execution of a high-risk search warrant. And I really want to take some time to thank the men and women from all the federal partners who do that work that don't go unnoticed. We get to stand up here, and I think a lot of praise goes to those folks. So I really appreciate your time, and thank you for having me.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief.
And now introduce our Sheriff, Toby Shelley. Toby, you wouldn't mind?
Sure, you want to do that, Bill? Anybody who's in the military knows that you have to look like you're up to something important, and that's why I'm carrying this around, just so I look like I'm up to something important. I want to thank everyone for coming, and I especially want to thank our district attorney for finally admitting who the ultimate law enforcement officer is in Onondaga County. But I sensed some lawyer words in his admission, but regardless of that, and that's somewhat of an inside joke, but what isn't a joke is our crime. And our criminals could care less that I'm the sheriff, he's the district attorney, they're the FBI. The crime doesn't have borders. And to fight this crime, we absolutely have to work together. And that's what this operation did. That's what we're going to continue to do in our positions. And in my office, whether it's one of our deputies in the jail who you think has no value to this, but they do, because they're listening to what those criminals are saying. And that feedback is coming back to our law enforcement officers, whether it's our aviation unit in the air, whether it's our detectives on the street and police officers. We all are going to work together on that crime. For example, in the near future today, my office is going to work with Syracuse Police for one of these high crime things. Stay tuned for that. But my office will continue to work together, and I'm thankful to work with this group. And I'll take my important document with me.
Tommy, is there anything in there?
No, it's empty.
It's empty. Anybody else, John? No, that's it? Okay. We'll take some questions, and because I know you all practice ambush for a living, we'll take off-topic questions when we're done. But any questions for any of the assembled law enforcement on Operation Clean Sweep?
Was there one arrest or seizure during this operation that surprised investigators?
I think the one, his name escapes me right now, but I think he had 18 guns at one point. There's a chart that we put together of the cases that specifically were covered by Operation Clean Sweep, but this individual obviously was in trafficking of guns, but he had a slew of narcotics as well. And I continually try to educate people about the misnomer of narcotics trafficking being a nonviolent crime. There is no narcotics trafficker that I have ever encountered in 50 years in law enforcement that wasn't concomitantly a violent individual. Not talking about, people dealing marijuana at a university or some silliness like that back in the 80s. These people are hardcore narco-terrorists, and they deserve to be treated as such.
What connects these arrests together under one operation? Was the type of crime they were doing all common? How did these people come into one sweep?
What John suggested early on was, look, we know who the bad offenders are. You know we have a crime analysis center here. We identify gang members. We have a certified list of just shy of 1,000 gang members just in the city of Syracuse. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of crime to deal with because they're not, they're not involved in legal activities. But there was no conspiracy here, Andrew. This was not an organized network. These were individuals that were pointed out to us that we targeted and resulted in arrests.
And why need the federal government for that?
I think John alluded to that. I mean, I've got a guy on trial downstairs who was acquitted of a homicide, has been involved in gun shooting most of his adult life, and he walks in and out of the courtroom with no bail restrictions on him. So if somebody wants to help me keep this community safe, and I know Toby and Mark feel the same way, come on board. And these guys have been great.
District Attorney, we've heard, I just wanted to confirm the number of arrests. 12 and 13 have been mentioned today. Is there any way we can clarify that?
We have 13 arrests, and they involve narcotics and or firearms. All of those individuals are being prosecuted in federal court. Some of them have already been sentenced to very lengthy periods of sentences in federal prison. I can tell you from my experience back when John Katko was doing RICO prosecutions that the fear of prison for a lot of offenders, it doesn't really materialize. I've sat in this room and looked at people who, or tell me to my face that they're not going to cooperate and they're going to lie at trial. And I said, well, you're going to be prosecuted for perjury, and they laugh at me. So I can do 4 years standing on my head, assuming they were ever to get 4 years. But when you mention federal prison, and you're talking about being shipped to Huntsville, Alabama, or Topeka, Kansas, believe me, it has a serious deterrent effect on some of these people. And the word's going to get out, if it hasn't already.
During the course of the investigation, did community members, others offer tips, assistance along the way?
Well, we always rely on tips. There's the Tips 411 hotline, which I hope you guys promote every chance you get. But one of the great disappointments in my life is the lack of community cooperation that we get on a consistent basis. Chief Rusin and his men and women will go to a crime scene where there's a shooting, and clearly, cops' cameras show that there were 50 people there, and 49 of them miraculously were in the bathroom, and that's sad. That's sad. If you want, I go to community groups all the time, and number one complaint is, well, we don't have enough police presence here. And then I go to another community group. We have too much police presence here. Leave it. Stop harassing my kids at 3 o'clock in the morning. Ma'am, I'm sorry. No police officer who stops a kid at 3 o'clock in the morning is harassing that child. Okay, and if we could have more. People know where the guns are. They know where the drugs are. If we could have more community cooperation, you're going to get the neighborhoods that you really truly deserve, namely, a place to go out and just have a good time and have fun and enjoy your life.
Were these entirely in the city of Syracuse?
I don't know if Joe, do we, or Nico? Yeah, I believe they all were in the city of Syracuse, but obviously there's tangential, as the sheriff will tell you. They don't suddenly hit a roadblock when they cross into Mattydale or Manlius or DeWitt.
Were there any particular central locations where this activity?
No. Again, these were. The nice part about it really is, many times I'll be standing here with these individuals and we'll be focused on a specific gang. In this particular instance, we were focused on individuals that we know are problematic in terms of crime.
And you're saying some have already been sentenced? Like it moved that quickly?
Yes, right, John? Some of them, yeah.
So what was the time limit, the time range of this week?
In terms of sentences?
Well, no, more so when did this start? It sounds like a few months worth of work. But
yeah, I don't have the specific date that John and I talked about it, but I know it's been percolating for months. And by the way, it by no means has ended. In fact, we could have had this press conference a while ago, but there were certain cases that we wanted to wrap up before the press conference.
So this is still active?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Every time we get a case where there's cross jurisdiction, we contact our federal authorities.
What's the biggest lesson that you learned from this sweep specifically?
I'm too old to learn any lessons, Victoria, but I'm encouraged by it because I've seen people come in to the U.S. Attorney's office and look. I've heard this mantra for years. You give us a case, one bullet. That's all the guy has to have. One bullet, and he's got a criminal record. We'll prosecute him federally, and that's never happened, surprising enough. So when I hear it time after time after time, it kind of goes in one ear and out the other. John Sarcone has been different. He hit the ground running. March 17th. No wonder I don't remember the date you got appointed. But he's hit the ground running, and he's a man of his word and a man of action. I like that. I learned that lesson.
One thing I also wanted to ask is, I don't know if you want to answer this, or perhaps Chief, you
Yeah,
would be able
let
to
the
speak
chief.
to it also. Now that these arrests have been made, is there any way to kind of convey to the community what kind of relief this might bring in any way to officers in your department that are patrolling the streets daily?
I think that we're grinding right now. So, you know, we do this press conference, we release the information, but if there's a shooting that happens down, you know, in the southwest side of the city, they don't particularly care what we have to say here, you know. So I think that what this shows me, you know, the lesson learned is you have to just keep going. Progress is not a finish line. So we've done incredible work here with the partnerships with the DA's office, the U.S. Attorney's office, our federal partners. But the sheriff mentioned it. We're on to the next thing, because that's our job. So I think the most important thing is that we're looking around the corner to the next operation, and that's what I've always seen with the DA's office. You know, even simple things like retail theft. The DA Fitzpatrick, I felt like it was the only one who took it seriously, and that's why we've had success there. But we're looking for the next thing around the corner at all times, and I think we're going to get that with the U.S. Attorney's office, but I've had that with the state police, the sheriff's office, and that's what I see with the federal partnerships as well.
And I guess also one more question. I know bail reform is used as a buzzword a lot. I'm wondering, so each of these 13 cases would not have been are not prosecutable under state law because of bail reform?
Oh, you can't set bail on a drug case unless you're, I think it's A1, Joe?
Yes.
Yeah. So if Bridget Brennan is a special narcotics prosecutor in New York City, and she's a very dear friend of mine, and she was telling me about a case with their office handles narcotics cases citywide, all 5 boroughs. She was telling me about a case where a Mexican drug cartel member was arrested by her office, home in LA, home in Mexico City, home in some obscure area of Mexico, and arrested with, you know, massive amounts of drugs, but not A1 level, out, never to be seen again, obviously. I mean, that's ridiculous.
So to speak to these cases?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, all of these guys would have been out on bail. Or, excuse me, out without bail and no restrictions.
And what's the work? I mean, bail reform has been criticized since it was so-called invented.
Yeah.
What's the work to actually improve it legislatively?
Oh, they don't listen to us. You know, you guys know that. I mean, I from my work on the Onondaga County inmate deaths, I've been trying to get a law passed called the Duty to Intervene Act. I have not spoken to a legislator who was not in favor of that act, except Carl Heastie. And if that's the case, dead on arrival. Great way to run a government, which is why the debt explosion in New York State is going to cripple us in about 8 months, but that's another story.
Community guns is a term we've heard quite a lot from
Yeah.
members of law enforcement. One was to blame for a fatal shooting of a 15-year-old girl a couple months ago in the
Sure.
city of Syracuse. Are these guns that we're talking about today that were seized falling into that category?
Sure. Yes, absolutely. And some of them had not been introduced into trafficking yet, but they unquestionably would have become community guns. Or, you know, one of the things with the homicide prosecutions that I've had myself is that I learned that sometimes these guns are hidden in a particular area in the city, and it makes it, you know, difficult for prosecution in terms of our requirement to prove possession beyond a reasonable doubt. And you find DNA on the gun, and then there's 5 other contributors, and we don't have the technology at this point to distinguish. We can do, I think, 3 or 4. When you get into 5, 6, 7, it becomes problematic.
So some of these guns might have been classified as that, but others might have worked their way towards that?
Correct.
Okay.
All right, thank you all very, very much. Thanks to my brothers and sisters for being here. Any other questions from?
Yeah, we've got some non-federal stuff.
Can I excuse these?
Sure.
Can I excuse these guys? All right. I appreciate it. Good to see you. Good to see you. Thanks. Thank you. Chief.